Welcome to session 3 out of 4 that are videos that are all about Nazi policy. So rules and laws that the Nazis put in place in Germany, and we're thinking about how they affected certain groups of people. So this is session 3 out of 4. Session 1 was about workers and how the policies affected them. Session 2 was about women. Session 3 is going to be about children, and the last one will be about Jews. So if we're doing this during lockdown, you are going to be using this as a walkthrough in order to fill in the tasks on the booklet Nazi policy to do with children. If you're using it for revision, then obviously you're just using it for the information. So as usual, we're going to go through. I'm going to tell you to pause at certain points so that you can fill in the correct section of your booklet, and then we'll press play, and usually the answers will be on the next slide, or at some point I'll have the booklets in and we can go through the answers together. There is some extra clips to watch in this session. It doesn't really work when I play the clips like this because they echo. So at some point you're going to have to pause this video and go and find the other clip that should be easy to find on CCBC History YouTube page under the Germany playlist. I will also upload them to the Nazi Germany section of the SharePoint, and I'll probably pop some of them up on the CCBC History Instagram page. So even though it's a pain to switch from clip to clip, there's 3 different ways of you finding those clips. Okay, so hopefully you've got your booklet ready to go. Let's get started. The first thing you're going to see in your children part of your booklet is kind of like a mind map that looks like this. So we have gathered that from Hitler's policy, he really wanted to control the people of Germany. He controlled workers by taking away their unions and kind of replacing them with a little bit of bribery, so cheap holidays and things like that to make sure they were loyal to him. For women, it was more about forcing them out of work, turning them into heroes, and kind of coming up with ways of getting them to have as many children as possible. With children, he knew that they were key to controlling the future of Germany. No offence, but younger people are a bit easier to brainwash than older people, only because they haven't been set in their ways yet. They haven't stuck to opinion and kind of lived most of their life thinking that one thing. So they used schools and teachers to tell children that everything they'd known beforehand was a bit of a lie, and they were going to teach them the real history of the world and the real things about Germany. And obviously that's not going to work for everybody, but in general it was quite successful in controlling the younger generation. So we're going to look at schools, and we're going to break it down into 4 things that Hitler did in order to brainwash children in education. He messed with the textbooks, so the books that they were reading. He used teachers, the curriculum, which means the school day, what type of things are taught in schools, and individual lessons. Okay. I'm not going to say use your knowledge organizer or anything like that. I'm going to maybe get you guys to just think about a bit of common sense, really. I've said how he's done it. I've just left words blank. So read through the paragraph. I actually reckon you could probably work this out yourself. We did do some of it in year 9. So just have a go at seeing what words you think fit in the blanks. Do it in a pencil or a white pen if you don't feel confident. Leave ones blank if you don't feel confident, and then we'll go through the answers on the next slide. So pause the video here, see if you can work out the blanks just using your previous knowledge and a bit of common sense, and then we'll go through the answers together and you can write them all in the blanks parts of the mind map. Okay, so hopefully you've had a go. Great if you managed to get them all. Don't worry if you left any blank, and don't worry if you're unsure of any of them. Let's go through it bit by bit then. Okay, so textbooks. Textbooks were rewritten to show Germans as the superior race. I'll accept better race. I'll have accepted the word pure race. They're all kind of the same thing. But basically, he got all the textbooks. So I've, obviously we use textbooks in history. As a teacher, I use the textbooks sometimes to base, my lessons off. So if I need to find some information, I'll go into the textbooks, and I know that I can usually trust them because it'll be historians or academics that have read through information and put it together for me. They're not always right, so I don't always trust them 100%, but yeah, they should be fairly trustworthy. Now, if you're a student and a teacher says to you, read page 61 of the textbook, that's where you're going to get your information from. So they rewrote them so that Germany never looked bad and always looked strong, superior, like they were the pure race and every other country and ethnicity were beneath them. All textbooks had to be approved by a group called the Ministry of Education before they were allowed to be used in schools. And the Ministry of Education were obviously Nazis, and they would just check that nobody was trying to sneak in anything that was against Nazi policy, and then they would let them go in. This meant that the Nazis controlled what students read in school. Okay, teachers. So surely us teachers wouldn't brainwash you. Teachers had to swear an oath of loyalty to Hitler. I'll have accepted the Nazi Party if you put the Nazi Party, but actually it says they had to swear it to Hitler specifically as the Führer. And they had to join a group called the Nazi Teachers League. If they didn't, they would be fired. So imagine it, well, actually, I don't think I would be a teacher, would I, in Nazi Germany? I probably would have been told to go off and get married and have kids. But imagine that I have managed to keep my job, and imagine that the propaganda hasn't got to me, and I actually, maybe I'm not even anti-Nazi, but maybe I just don't, like, I'm not fully on board. And they told me, you have to swear an oath of loyalty. You have to say that you're going to do whatever Hitler tells you to do, even if you don't believe it, and he's going to tell you to completely change education and brainwash the kids. And I was like, no, I don't believe in that. Then I would be fired from my job. In very extreme cases, I might even be arrested, sent off to prison, maybe even a concentration camp. So obviously, even the most intellectual or the moral teachers were afraid for their lives and their jobs and their families, so they pretended to kind of like, and just went along with it and did what the Nazis told them to do, even if they didn't believe in it. So it was a really difficult position for teachers to be in. Teachers had to promote Nazi ideals in the classroom. For example, they had to encourage students that Germans were better, or you could use superior or whatever, than other races, for example, Jews. So that's the type of thing that I would be saying to you guys if we were in a German school in the late 1930s. I would be telling you those type of things now. You guys are getting a bit older now, so you're forming your own opinions, but still, teachers are in a position of authority, and you do most of the time trust everything that we say. It's a very important job, really, because I have to make sure that I don't force my opinions on you guys as students, because you would kind of trust what I said. So I can't go around saying, well, I think this is the right and I think this is wrong. I have to kind of give you the facts, and I like it that if you can come up with those opinions yourself. So that's what teachers should do. So this is kind of the opposite. It's saying that teachers had to push their opinions on the students, or push Hitler's opinions on the students. Okay, curriculum. School curriculum, which means subjects taught, changed to prepare students for their future roles in the Third Reich. The Third Reich is the name that Hitler calls this new Germany. Reich means empire, so it's the Third German Empire. He believed there'd been two empires previously. The first one is medieval, I think. The second one is the one that Kaiser Wilhelm was trying to do, which is why World War I happened, and then he's going to have the Third Reich. So Hitler wanted healthy, fit men and women. So 15% of the school time was devoted to physical fitness. You could say PE or exercise or anything like that. New subjects such as race studies were introduced, where students were taught about the Aryan race. Aryan is the word given to a pure German who's got blonde hair, blue eyes. And how to identify Jews by measuring their skulls. So there's physical traits for different ethnicities, isn't there? The common physical trait for Jews is to have more of a pronounced kind of nose and forehead. So they were kind of really going into that and saying, oh well, if someone's got a forehead of this size, that means they must have, you know, some Jewish blood in them, which is a bit mad, really. It's taking a physical trait and kind of running away with it. Boys were taught military drills to prepare them to obviously fight in war, and girls were taught needlework, cooking, cleaning, and how to look after children, because that was the role that they were going to have. Religious education became optional in schools. Hitler didn't really have any use for religion. And lessons. Every lesson started and ended with students saluting and saying, Heil Hitler. Make sure you're spelling that right for me, please. Heil just means hail, yeah? And they would do the Nazi salute, you know, with the arm in the air, the flat palm. So imagine us doing that at the start of every lesson. So you'd all stand up, you'd shout Heil Hitler, and then you'd all sit down, and we'd all do it at the end. Subject lessons were changed so that they subtly taught students about Nazi ideals. For example, maths problems involved working out the percentage of Jews who lived in Germany. Geography lessons involved discussing which countries Germany had claim to. And history lessons involved teaching students how unfair the Treaty of Versailles was. So there's an actual maths problem that goes something like, there are, I'm just making up numbers now, there are 32,000 citizens in Berlin, of which 11,250 are Jewish, and I think the words used were aliens to imply that they don't belong there. And then it was like, what percentage of the population is alien and does not belong in Germany? So they're not directly saying Jews are bad, but they're kind of making them work out problems for the future, because this is something Hitler wants to do in the future. He wants people to go, yeah, there's too many Jews in the country, let's kind of kick them out. In geography, it was all about having a map of Europe and saying, well, which countries used to belong to Germany but don't anymore? Therefore, when Hitler goes to take them over in a few years' time, everyone will be like, yeah, but that makes sense because they used to belong to us. And the same with the Treaty of Versailles. When Hitler goes and kind of poos all over the Treaty of Versailles and breaks all the rules, everybody in Germany will be like, yeah, but it was unfair. So it's totally allowed. So you can see how he's getting to the roots and brainwashing them young so that when he does stuff later on, people are on his side and support him and will fight for him. Okay, moving on to the next task. So the next I'm going to look at is out of school. So Hitler controlled children when they were in school, but what about when they weren't? He set up kind of youth groups. So think about like the Scouts and Brownies and Guides. Think about all the clubs that you've volunteered to do after school. So you might do something like sporting clubs or art clubs or drama clubs or something like that. Now imagine that there was only one club available to you, and for a few years, it was the only club available, so you probably would go, but you don't have to. But then after a few years, it was compulsory. You had to go whether you wanted to or not. And that was called the Hitler Youth. There were two branches of the Hitler Youth. There was the Hitler Youth, which was for boys, and the League of German Maidens, which was the branch for girls. So like I said, optional, but the only group available, and then obviously made mandatory later on. In your booklet, you've got a table that looks at Hitler Youth and League of German Maidens. I've got some notes that I've taken a picture of from the textbook, which are a bit boring. There are a couple of clips, really good clips, on the CCBC History YouTube page. If you go into the Germany in Transition playlist, it looks like this. These are the videos that are relevant to you. So you can see they're not very long videos. You've got Child for Hitler, Hitler Youth, Swing Kids, which are the kids that protested against it, which is really interesting. And then that one's kind of focusing more on the League of German Maidens, Tomorrow's Wives and Warriors. If you just want to watch one, watch the 9.5-minute one called Hitler Youth. I've done a link to the playlist below, but if you just type in CCBC History into YouTube, it will come up for you. I will also put them, like I said, up on Instagram and SharePoint for you. So watch as many of those clips as you'd like. I'll also put on the next slide some notes up for you as well, so that you can check if you've got the right information. Okay. Pause this video, watch the videos of your choice, and then come back to this clip just for one last task. So that's the notes from the textbook. Like I said, very basic, very boring, not very long, but if you wanted to check anything on there, then you can. But for Hitler Youth, you want to talk about all the different tasks that they got them to do. You want to talk about that they got a uniform. You want to talk about how they're subtly being trained to be in the army. You want to talk about the brutality of it and how not all boys wanted to do it. I think in the clip it's very good at showing you how boys were kind of attracted to it, you know, like they were given a uniform, a knife and things like that. And I also like in the clip that the parents are being forced to allow their son to go, even though they really don't agree with it. And then German maidens talk about their uniform, their hair, and the type of things that they were being doing. It obviously wasn't as exciting as the Hitler Youth for males. You could also add in your table, if you watched the clip on the Swing Kids, that not all young people joined these groups. Some did rebel and were severely punished. So that is something that you could add, like on the outside of the table or at the bottom of the table. One last thing then, go back to the second and third page of your booklet, the double page spread, where we've split it into 4 sections. You've already filled in the section for workers and women. Could you now fill in the section on children? So could you describe what was expected of a young person in Nazi Germany? Give some examples of things that that was expected of them. So children were expected to do this, this and this. Maybe you could give us some examples of policies or laws that they had to follow. So you could say, like, is it in 1939 or 8? They had to join the Hitler Youth. You could talk about some of the changes that happened in school. Those are policies like textbooks being rewritten and so on. How did these policies change children's lives, do you think? So being in school and out of school. And do you think their lives improved? Do you think these were quite positive changes for children? Yes. Give me 2 reasons why. No. Give me 2 reasons why. Or you can do a little bit of a yeah but no answer. And then that's it. We're done with children. Next session we'll focus on Nazi policy to do with Jews. Thank you very much for listening. Have a good rest of the day.